Hey everybody, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Brandon Jackson and I'm the 2017 Southeast Military Youth of the Year. In addition to that title, I serve as the 2020-2021 Student Body President and President of the Winthrop University National Panhellenic Council. So, as you may have heard me say just now, I attend Winthrop University in Rock Hill, South Carolina, where I'm a senior business administration major. However, my goal to Student Body President and President of the National Panhellenic Council wasn't easy. It took a lot of goal setting, it took a lot of ambition, and it took a lot of drive. And that's what I'm here to talk to you all about today, leadership and goal setting. In addition to that, I'll be sharing how my teen ambassador experience really prepared me for the collegiate lifestyle and honestly prepared me to be the best student body president Winthrop University has ever seen. So it takes a lot to run for president. Let's start from the beginning. You have to want to, you have to have the desire, you have to have the drive, you have to have the energy, the patience, a lot of personality characteristics that come with holding such a title. But if you want it bad enough, you'll fight for it. Before I became student body president, I also served as student body vice president and student body secretary. So I had a couple of experiences under my belt, but that didn't make the challenge any easier. I'd first like to talk about the confidence it took, one of my favorite 7 C's. So I was initially nervous about running for president. I thought people would see me as overqualified because I did so much on campus, or even that people felt because I was doing so much on campus, I wouldn't be able to serve adequately in this role. Quite frankly, my confidence began to wane as we began campaigning, seeing the other competition, seeing their graphics and materials they had submitted and introduced to the student body. It was easy to feel like we were less than, or that we weren't going to be able to do it as well as they did, and that we just weren't going to win. But honestly, my confidence began to build back up through my support system of my family and friends. It just started with simple conversations like, what do you think I could do better? Seeking out constructive criticism, listening to praises and not rejecting them, but also taking the feedback and working with it. When you're working with other people or trying to serve other people, it's important to listen to the population as well, because at the end of the day, those are the people you're serving. Furthermore, let's talk about connection. So if running for office, you have to be connected with people. I serve a university where our school population, our undergraduate population at least, is about 6,000 people. So it might seem small, but in practice, that's a lot of people on campus, a lot of faces, a lot of names, a lot of meetings, a lot of projects, a lot of bulletin boards, etc. But it takes some connection to get it done. I didn't really always feel connected at Winthrop, especially when I first got here. I even thought about transferring, but obviously that didn't happen if I'm student body president. Now, I became connected through the Office of Student Activities, the Division of Student Affairs as a whole, just in terms of what it means to be a leader, what it means to be a student, a well-disciplined student, a multidisciplinary student at that, what it means to serve the community around you, how you can thrive both inside the classroom and outside, how to even be a good resident, which even turned into me becoming a resident assistant as well. So I feel that I made a lot of connections with the student body too. From there, it helped me build my campaign. I began to understand what the student body needs, what kind of change they would like to see on campus, how can we implement that change, how can it be executed, what needs to stay, because at the end of the day, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Before I continue with the 7 C's, I feel like y'all probably want to know what the campaign experience was like. I talked about 2 C's and what it took to get in office and how I started to implement what I'm using, but you probably want to know the ins and outs of the campaign. So back in January of 2021, back in January of 2020, began working on the application to run for student body president. So at our institution, you have to run as a ticket. So therefore, you have to have a vice president running with a president, you run as a pair. The application was fairly short. It didn't take too much time, in my opinion, especially because I had filled out the same application last year when I was vice president. Like I said, the experience was there. But nonetheless, it's the fact that I had to go through the motions again and essentially start over as if I was just regular Joe Schmo. But I wasn't, and it's important to keep that in mind because you're special, you're unique, and you always have something to bring to the table. From there, we became certified candidates. We had to start working on a campaign, a platform, what we would like to see changed on campus, how we want to implement it, how we want to execute it, like I said earlier, get some nice graphics. I know personally, this isn't a 7C, but I'm not very creative. That's a C I struggle with. So it took me connecting with people around me and really finding out who's good at what and using the strengths of others to make the success. So we started taking pictures during spring break, even got some cool videos up and running, well, prepared as opposed to executed at that point because campaign didn't start until after spring break. But we were really preparing, and then COVID-19 pretty much hit the United States and shut everything down. We were in the middle of taking pictures, and our university announced that we would be remote for 2 weeks. And at that point, everybody thought we were coming back, but we didn't come back at all. We didn't return to campus until the fall. So that, it didn't necessarily put a damper in our plans, but it threw a dent in it, to say the least. We had to become resilient and work with it, go with the flow. They announced that the elections wouldn't be stopped. We would just have to kind of move everything towards a virtual platform, and it would be up to you to make the best of it. And I think at that point, it seemed like a huge adversity, and to a certain extent it was, but it definitely better prepared us to serve in office throughout the duration of a pandemic or an ongoing pandemic. So once we did that, adjusted everything online, Instagram was our main outlet, just understanding needs of the student body. I know at other institutions, Twitter is really popular in terms of pushing out information. So we just did what was best for our population. And we went from there. It was time to campaign. We did our town hall, started not talking to people anymore in person, started messaging people, getting the word out via social media, and just all around what does it mean for us to be in office. My running mate was Raven Cunningham, and what our plans would be in office and how we could better serve them. What does your organization need from us? What do you as a student need from us in leadership role, and how we can overall best serve you? And I know it sounds like I keep saying that, but at the end of the day, leadership is all about serving others. So once we finished with town halls, it was pretty much time for people to vote. Mind you, the pandemic was just beginning. People were still shifted towards home. So we didn't know how the voting population would look. If people would even vote, we didn't know what was going to happen. But actually, this turned out to be one of the higher amount of voting populations we had in recent years. And we ended up winning with 55% of the votes in comparison to 2 other tickets. So we took home the victory, and I thought it was like, okay, wow, we did it. But then everybody's like, okay, now the hard work begins. And sometimes when people say that, you don't really realize it, but as soon as June came, after the semester ended, it's like, all right, it's time to get to work. So pulling up the iPad again for my notes. Now, to accomplish that goal of mine, becoming student body president, it took some goal setting. Although I filled out the application in January, I honestly started thinking about running for president the fall before. As vice president, I understood what it took to be a part of a campaign, not necessarily be at the forefront, but nonetheless, I saw and witnessed the energy and dedication needed to be successful. So when I first set my goal, I started talking to Raven about what did she want to see from campus, and even seeing if our goals for Winthrop align. If they didn't align, perhaps we wouldn't be the best running payer. But fortunately enough, we were. From there, what kind of work were we willing to put in? What kind of time we had on our hands to actually fulfill the roles? Although we're both seniors, that doesn't mean you can't make time. Senioritis is kind of real. Don't let it defeat you though, but you can combat anything. So with that goal, I kind of asked myself, where do I want to take this? How far do I want this to go? Do I want to make change short-term or long-term? What needs to change immediately? What can I do to make Winthrop better? And overall, how can I perform well in this role to the point where I leave a lasting impact? A lot of the change we wanted to see, it took short-term actions to create long-term results, long-term and more sustainable results. So that was our major goal. And with that, our goal setting just included a lot of preparation, a lot of time. We had funds sponsored by the university to make our goals come to life, so that wasn't really an issue. But I noticed one of the biggest issue in terms of goal setting was fighting an internal battle with myself. It's easy to really, you can probably hear it in my voice, it's really easy to get defeated, especially at an institution where you might not feel valued, or you might not feel that people always see your work, see the true intention behind what you're doing. It feels like your goals are shot down, unheard, unappreciated. And at times it might feel like it's not worth it. But let me tell you, if you want it bad enough and you believe it can happen, it's definitely worth all the time, energy, money, dedication, blood, tears, sweat. It's worth it all. So I'm going to transition in terms of how to work towards a goal. I think when listening to leadership series and webinars and conferences and workshops, etc., a lot of times people try to sell a one-size-fits-all model, and I don't like that as a leader. I feel like everybody has their own individual likes, dislikes, interests, disinterest, if disinterest is a word. People do things differently. That's a part of understanding diversity and inclusion. So I'm going to provide you all my tips to be successful. You might like all of them. You might like none of them. What I want you to learn from this is that this is what worked for me. What worked for me might not work for you. However, there is something that works for you, and you should always work towards finding it. So when I was working towards my goal, a lot of times I had to understand what my why is. Your why is essentially, why are you doing this? What's your purpose? What's your end goal? By doing so, what's your output? What are you intending to give back? Or what are you intending to create? That's, in my opinion, that's the first step towards working towards your goal. If you don't keep your why in mind, the confidence will always deplete. The opinions and thoughts of others will always get you. And it's really hard to be successful, quite frankly. I think sophomore year, I really struggled with my why in terms of servant leadership and making a difference on campus. And I kind of had to focus my mindset again on why I became a leader, why I decided to step up to the plate and keep the ball rolling. Next, you have to understand that you do not always have to carry the burden of your goal by yourself. I know it's really easy to feel like, because it's my goal, I have to do everything. I have to make sure this, that, and the third is taken care of. I don't need anybody else's help. I shouldn't have to ask for anybody else's help. I don't want anybody else's help. Let me tell you, it's really hard to make it in this world without the help of others, even if it's something like somebody picking up your pencil on a bad day. Allow people to help you. Reach out for help. And some of my larger goals included like huge shifts in programming for the institution or for student government in general. And without the help of others, my dreams and goals probably wouldn't have come to life. It took a lot of networking, connections, collaborations to really make sure people understood what we were going for, what we intended to do in office, what we intended to do with the shift in programming. And if I wanted the goal to come to life, I had to constantly work with people to get up the chain of command, to get approval, and just make sure everything was taken care of. Next, we're going to talk about dedication. So if this is your goal, you have to make sure that this is a goal you're willing to stick to, be dedicated to, and see it to its fullest extent once it is well executed to the best of your abilities. I think often, and I'm guilty of this as well, it's really easy to submit, and by submit, I'll something think of, create, draft, goals that are unrealistic. You have to understand what is in your power and capacity in this given moment that you would like to see come to life. Sometimes, I know a couple of the goals I had for running for student body president, I would not be able to accomplish in the 2 semesters that I was president, or even the 2 semesters that I was vice president, or even the 2 semesters that I was secretary. It just wasn't gonna happen. Some of the bigger change we want to see, like for an example, a new residence hall. I didn't understand how much money it took, or let me take it back. I wasn't aware of how much money it took until it came down to trying to sit down, do the research, look at like contracts, how much it costs to tear a building down, renovate or build a building back up, plumbing, installation, etc. It get really expensive. That's just an example. So that's an example of a more unrealistic goal that I wasn't gonna see throughout my time here. But back to making realistic goals. If you want it, you have to know that, okay, this is something I can handle right now. This is something I'm willing to give my time to. This is something I'm willing to invest in. This is something that means something to me. It carries substance. You feel like once accomplished, it'll make a difference in your life, or it'll make a difference in those around you. The goal has substance. Excuse me. Lastly, in terms of working towards your goal, I would say just be you. Be as bold, daring, confident, and conquering as you were before accomplishing the goal. Working towards it, it just means that this is your goal. You have to see it to life. Although other people can believe in you, nobody can possess the desire and willpower to do it for you. You have to make sure that this goal is uniquely you, as unique as you are, and make sure your goal, really makes a difference in your life. So now that I give you all those tips and that context, we're gonna jump back into the 7 C's. We went over confidence and connection. In terms of being student body president, I'll also say it came with a lot of coping. This year in office, we've seen some turmoil, gotten a lot of backlash. Oftentimes, people responding a lot more negatively to change than positively, especially when there can be like such a difference in thoughts, opinions, and mindsets. So I had to learn how to cope with a large magnitude of differing opinions. A lot of times we can handle a couple of different opinions, like one or two, and it's like, okay, if they one person, who cares what they think? But when it's like 30 plus people and you like, okay, hold on, did I mess something up? Like, is it really that bad? You really have to cope, adapt, and move forward. If this is something that you want to see to the end and it would be good for yourself and or those around you, you have to cope with the negatives. Don't make the negatives seem like they'll overcome you or they'll overwhelm you. And they can be overwhelming, don't get me wrong. But you have to cope to the point where nothing and nobody can get in the way of you accomplishing your goal. So, as I said earlier, I was also a teen ambassador throughout my time in high school. I went to, for those of you who may have recognized me, I was at a couple of Keystone conferences. Went to Orlando, Dallas, and Chicago. And Orlando and Dallas in particular, I was part of the Teen Ambassadors program. And in Dallas, I was part of the Teen Ambassadors steering committee. So I really feel like Teen Ambassadors prepared me for Youth of the Year and beyond. Youth of the Year and beyond. The beyond really included like my time at Winthrop. Before Teen Ambassadors, I was outspoken, I was probably more outspoken in like a jovial class clown manner as opposed to like a professional difference maker manner. But Teen Ambassador really changed my life. So when I was in Orlando and went to the Teen Ambassadors conference before Keystone, I met Mr. Eric and Mr. Nelly, and they were just like really phenomenal. I saw the Teen Ambassador program for what it was, and I just like wanted to be on steering committee so bad. I didn't even understand the whole process of getting selected to be on it. I just wanted to do it. I was like, can y'all put me on the stage right now? What they're doing seems so cool, all that good stuff. But they're like, no, it don't work like that. You need to slow down. So did that, was able to be on the Teen Ambassador steering committee next year, and the steering committee was really where all the change started coming. I learned how to speak more confidently. I started learning how to give presentations as best as a junior high schooler could. I started to really learn how to make meaningful connections and move forward throughout life. Some people from Teen Ambassador I still talk to today. A lot of people in Texas, but that's where Keystone was. And Teen Ambassadors really just showed me what it's like to take that development of stepping stone from one stage in life to the next. I learned about the 7 C's. I learned what it means to be a military youth in its various aspects and stages. I learned the best parts and the worst parts of growing up. I got to share different experiences with different people. And Teen Ambassadors really taught me how to appreciate diversity and the different backgrounds people come from. And that's really important in the collegiate lifestyle and experience because a lot of people around you don't have the same background as you. They come from different socioeconomic status, race, religion, sex, sexual orientation, you name it, it's probably different. But I really appreciate the Teen Ambassadors for teaching me that experience and even gifting me with that experience because I really learned how to work with different people in my role as student body president. Like I said earlier, it's easy to face a lot of backlash, but the backlash hits way harder when people think way differently than you and don't understand what you're trying to do at all. But with that came along my confidence and trying to better my connections and really make the best of the experience. So I know I talked a lot about the 7 C's and how some of them have helped me throughout my time in office. However, it's important for you all to know that these are the same C's that have helped me maintain my goal and reach my goal as well. Before I let you all go, I just want to talk about one more C and how it's helped me work towards my goal and maintain my goal of being student body president. The last thing I want to focus on is control. Control is an internal facet, however, external factors can play a huge role. Like I said, when COVID hit the United States and we were pretty much on shutdown/lockdown, it was easy to feel like we lost control, that we were in this new realm, new terrain, don't know how to perform, adapt, operate, how to even act. But that's okay. You have to maintain your control on the inside, and it helps keep your composure on the outside. Within your control, you just have to, in my opinion, control more so goes along with focus and dedication. I feel like you can all use the three to work together. Just keep yourself control your mindset, control your thoughts, control your actions, so that way you are working towards your goal in a continuous manner. And know that nothing in nature naturally happens in a straight line. Sometimes progress is up and down. Sometimes it might even look like this. It might go back and go forth. But as long as you're in control, you have the power to make the best of your journey. So with those departing words, I hope you learned a lot about leadership and goal setting and how it looks on a collegiate setting and how to work towards your goal. My name is Brandon Jackson. Again, I'm 2017 Southeast Military Youth of the Year. I hope you have a great day, a great month, and a great year. And thank you for tuning in.